This week's news cycle started out with the media really going crazy over these new results published by Moderna. They published their new trial results for this vaccine. It was just the beginning of it, but we have a clip of this, so you can take a look.
All right.
Some really major news from Moderna this morning. I think these are the first human data we're seeing on a COVID-19 vaccine program, and it's positive news.
So this is all very promising.
And this is very encouraging.
Moderna announcing that a vaccine has produced antibodies in participants of a phase 1 trial.
Yeah, I mean, this is encouraging news.
Stock surged yesterday after Moderna's CEO reported progress on its vaccine candidate.
That's right, Charles. This is really encouraging. I'm so excited. I can't wait till it's on the market.
Early results show one of the vaccines is generating the hoped-for response.
More now on the encouraging news about a potential coronavirus vaccine.
Vaccine.
The real test, of course, is, as you point out, we'll move into now phase 2 and phase 3 trials.
Boy, it surely seems like when you're hearing that we may have spotted or perhaps trapped or cornered the vaccine unicorn, right? I mean, this is something we've been talking about. Do they have it? I've been saying, when is it going to come? And it certainly sounds like they were all celebrating the idea that we are on the track. We've got it. Maybe we found some dung from the vaccine unicorn and we've made our way through the clouds and there it is, Moderna's vaccine. It seems to be working. It's really quite incredible. I mean, that was the sense at the beginning of the week. How did it hold?
Not so well. We had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. coming out on Instagram really blasting the trials, and even Stat News came out and gave this trial some poor coverage. And when you know when Stat News comes out and gives your new vaccine,
I mean, that's essentially a medical newspaper, right? I mean, they cover all things medical. They tend to be very pro-vaccine, very pro-mainstream medicine. And this was the headline: vaccine experts say Moderna didn't produce data critical to assessing COVID-19 vaccine. What do they mean by that?
Well, in the article, I mean, it's a must read for everybody, and I can't believe I'm telling everyone to read a Stat News article because typically they're pretty adversarial. But I mean, they really did a decent job here. In the article, they said several vaccine experts asked by Stat concluded that based on the information made available by a Cambridge, Massachusetts-based company, that's Moderna, there's really no way to know how impressive or not the vaccine may be. They went on to say, while Moderna blitzed the media, it revealed very little information, and most of what it did disclose were words, not data. It's fascinating. Now, what's interesting about this, to go further, was the National Institutes for Allergy and Infectious Disease, who partnered with Moderna on this vaccine, basically said scientists at NIAID made the vaccine's construct or prototype, and the agency is running the phase 1 trial. NIAID doesn't hide its light under a bushel. The institute generally trumpets its findings, often offering Anthony Fauci or another senior personnel for interviews. They did not do this. They didn't put out a press release. They did none of this.
That's suspicious, right? I mean, we saw Fauci jumping up and down about remdesivir after failed trials all over the world, and one that was showing some light possibility, one we've written a letter about because it's such a disaster how it's being handled. But clearly we know he's capable of jumping up and down, being excited, but mum's the word when it comes to the excitement around the Moderna vaccine. And Bobby Kennedy pointed out something in his Instagram that got a lot of attention. You know, there's only 45 people in this trial, yet 3 of them apparently had severe adverse reactions. Did you know anything about that?
Yeah, so the grade 3, the severe reaction, it's a grade 3 reaction that was listed in Moderna's press release. I looked that up with the FDA, and it basically says it's quote, severe or medically significant, but not immediately life-threatening. Hospitalization or prolongation of hospitalization may be required. So not just kind of a drop in the bucket here. This is a pretty big deal. Now, Moderna went on, this is all in their press release. Now, keep in mind, the company has not yet brought a vaccine to market. It doesn't typically publish its work in scientific journals, and what is known as disclosed through press releases. And this is what we're quoting from. This is what Stat News and everybody's quoting from. 8 of the volunteers out of the 45 developed what are called neutralizing antibodies. The other 45 developed basically the antibodies that that are just called binding antibodies. Now, the difference between those from what I can understand through the research is the binding ones are basically just along for the ride. They may not offer much as far as immunity. It's the neutralizing antibodies that really interfere with infectivity of COVID-19, according to this model. So not really something to trumpet or be too excited about. Now, in the ages were 18 to 55 of these volunteers, Moderna didn't disclose the ages of the 8 people that developed the neutralizing antibodies. So are we talking about were they on the higher side? Were they on the 55-year-olds? Because that's kind of where the COVID-19 seems to be attacking, or is it all 18-year-olds? We don't know.
Yeah, and that's what really bothers me about this. I mean, if we think about what's taking place, and I've promised everybody we are going to keep a microscope on these trials as they go on. Phase 1 trials this is really the information we've always wanted. But when you think about this vaccine and this vaccine trial, it's 45 people. What happened with the other 37? Do they not have the better antibodies? I mean, why aren't we talking about that? Why are we trying to figure out what you meant by a grade 3 severe reaction? We should be hearing exactly what happened to these people, because right now taxpayer money is building manufacturing plants. Our money is building manufacturing plants for a product. That means we own this thing. We are buying this thing, and we should know what we're buying. And remember, folks, as Robert Kennedy Jr. put very clearly in his Instagram post, this is the best of the best. These people are the healthiest people they could find. They're not allowed to be on other drugs. They're not allowed to have any of the heart conditions. They're not over the age of 65. Not one of the people that is in this trial sits in that group that's at risk for COVID-19. These are the exact people that would be described probably as asymptomatic carriers. A subject must meet all the following criteria. You get the idea. We don't have to read through all of those. This is the top gun, man. These are the healthiest people they can find. I think this was in Seattle, Washington, right? And so no autoimmune disease, no cardiovascular disease. When you have these people having severe adverse reactions, you should be very concerned. And guess what? When you have the government agent, as in Anthony Fauci, being the one whose patents coming from the NIH and NIAID in this product, I think you should have to be doubly or triple the amount of transparency you have going on. And now take the fact that the vaccine czar that's going to decide which vaccine we use and tell us which one is going to be forced into the public on some way or another if Alan Dershowitz gets his way, then this guy was on the board of Moderna. This thing is so wrapped up in controversy and conflicts of interest. It is really shocking. And I'm glad Stat is calling it out, right? They're saying, hold on a second. There is so much more information we should have about this. The news should be able to interview those 3 people that were ill and explain to us exactly what happened. But that's not the case. Are there any other vaccines out there that are having results this week?
Yeah, so the University of Oxford in England, they concluded their vaccine trials and published some of the information. Now, the government in England already invested £90 million into this vaccine trial. So this is kind of their unicorn in England. They did a monkey trial. All 6 monkeys went on to catch the coronavirus when challenged.
After having the vaccine.
Yes, this bombshell comes after reports last week that suggested the vaccine offered some immunity. So they came out and said, this offers some immunity. It stopped the coronavirus from getting in the lungs. There wasn't too much in the respiratory tract. What they didn't disclose, or what was found out later, because this thing began to looked at by other people and started to peer review this information, the monkeys who received the vaccine had the same amount of virus in their nose as the non-vaccinated monkeys in the trial. So we're talking about now shedding. We're talking about, if we're nose swabbing everybody or nasal swabbing everybody, even if you get vaccinated, you're probably going to test positive now with these COVID-19 tests.
And just like in America, they're building manufacturing plants as we speak for this failing vaccine. Are they going to bail out of the human trials now that it clearly didn't work for monkeys?
No, they've already steamrolled it into human trials. So they're already talking phase 2 trials. They're going ahead with it. They're kind of just trying to sweep that under the rug. And people are saying, hold on, wait a minute. Let's look back at these monkeys. This didn't work too well. If this happens in humans, you are going to have, it's not going to do anything with the infection. It's not going to stop the infection at all from spreading. So huge problems. And like you said, we got to keep a microscope on this thing. Everybody needs to be calling this stuff out.
Absolutely. I mean, as the week started out, we thought we'd found the vaccine unicorn. But in fact, as we dug a little deeper, it appears that that was a slight overstatement. Jeffrey, thank you so much for that brilliant reporting. It's good to know you're out there with the microscope looking into this. I want everyone at Moderna to know Jeffrey Jackson's on the case. We're not going to let you get away with this. And luckily, we have some friends now, some really strange friends in Stat News. I hope they keep up the great work. Jeffrey, you have the Jackson Report. You can be seen at the High Wire if you want to read the articles that go in much more depth. For those of you that can read, you really will enjoy the work that Jeffrey Jackson does for us at the High Wire. Jeffrey, keep up the great work, all right?
All right. Thanks, Del.
If you like that clip, then be sure to check out our live broadcast of the High Wire every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can watch it on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, and Twitter. We'll see you there.